On my screen right now are the split testing dashboards for two of our e-commerce clients. As you can see, in 30 days, we're able to increase conversion rate by 21%, revenue per site visitor by 54%, which amounts to $81,000 in additional monthly revenue, and a $900 increase in AOV. And in this second case, a 73% increase in revenue per site visitor, which amounts to $110,000 in additional monthly revenue. And I wasn't able to get these results by hopping on some random fancy CRO hacks or using some random tricks to get my clients thousands of orders in additional revenue, but by doing CRO in the correct and right way. So in this video, I'm going to show you A to Z, the entire step-by-step process that you can apply today to your brand to get these exact same results in your brand. So let's start first with the first and most important step, which is research. Most brands don't even know how to sell their own product. They don't know what pain problems their customers have. They don't know how they feel. They don't know what's their goal, and they don't know how they want their life to look. Good research and ICP knowledge enables you to write copy that bypasses price objections, and your customers would do anything to fulfill their internal desires. So how do you access and how do you get this base knowledge about your customers and your ICP so that you're able to make split testing worth the time? By analyzing your reviews, you have a goldmine of information at your disposal of customers that bought your product, used it, have an opinion and an experience about it, and decided to also write it in public. And this is the easiest and cheapest way, most cost-effective way to conduct research, because you don't have to pay basically anything to get the exact same thoughts and messages and kind of line of thought that your customers had before buying your product and their experience about your product. This is so important because you can use this information as ammunition in your ads, in your creatives, on your pages, and in every step of your brand to reel in more of the same type of these kind of customers, and you know exactly how to sell to this kind of customer. So by following this process here to conduct your research, this is by far the most cost-effective way and the cheapest way to conduct market research. Now that you're armed with your research, you can go forward to step 2, which is hypothesis. A hypothesis is a statement that predicts how a change will impact your store. Example, changing this headline from X to Y will increase conversion rate by 10%. How do you come up with hypothesis, and not just random hypothesis, but hypothesis that makes sense? So after step 1, we've said that you're armed with ICP knowledge and your current situation, so how your store is currently looking and currently selling your product. So you open a Figma file, you just download Figma, you just open a Figma file, you import your current pages and everything research related you found in step 1, and you brainstorm idea for changes based on what you found in the research step and looking exactly at how your store is selling your product. Not just how it's looking, because most brands make the error of focusing 100% on design when it's actually not the thing that moves the needle forward, but actually with copy, with headlines, with how you're selling the product, with who you're targeting with the product, with how your store is selling the product. So you open a Figma file, you import your current situation and everything research related, and you start by brainstorming ideas for changes, and you write comments next to where you want to change, so you can have an organized file of all of the hypotheses you came up with and a central repository of all of your ICP knowledge and research you constructed in step 1. So now that you have all of your list of hypotheses and changes that you want to make, you want to have a way of prioritizing them, because a lot of clients, a lot of brands come to me and ask me, okay, now we have all of these ideas, but we don't know what to test first. So obviously there's a way you can prioritize your test, and when testing you want to make sure you're targeting obviously high traffic, high priority changes first, because that's where most of the money is. So here in order are the things which have the most impact on your brand and on your store. Offer, the bread and butter of your product, targeting who you're selling the offer to, and presentation, how you're showing the offer to the target. So as you can see, all of these play into the others, and you have an order exactly of how to target and how to prioritize your split test by following offer, targeting, and presentation. Rate every test from 1 to 10 for priority based on these 3 categories. So first the offer-based test, then the targeting-based test, then the presentation-based test. So example A, changing your discount structure on bundles if you sell your product in bundles is an offer test, because they're changing directly the offer in which you're selling your product. So if you're selling your product in bundles and you have discounts on the bundles on a higher volume of purchase on a bigger cart, if you change those discounts, that's an offer test. So therefore it's very important. And here we have also a second case, an example B of another test we've actually ran for our client. And as you can see here, this was how their buy box looked before. They have their subscriptions, they have their bundles below, and we changed it to this. So as you can see, this is a presentation test clearly, because we didn't change the offer, we didn't change the targeting, we didn't touch these two at all, but we're changing how we're presenting the offer to the target. So as you can see, obviously the second buy box is much better than the first one. And this is for a few reasons. We are showcasing better why it's better to go for the highest value bundles, the highest AOV bundles. We're adding a few lines of context and benefits to why subscription is much more important and much better for the customer going forward, because this is a brand that focuses a lot on revenue from subscriptions. So we wanted to go that way. And as you can see, the difference is very substantial, and it also obviously yielded great results for us, because it was a very, very important test to run, and it was a very successful test. So these are a few examples of tests you can run here. There is a million and a billion different types of tests you can run, and we come with those up for every brand we work with, and we don't do any kind of like templated split testing, but we come with targeted tests for every brand we work with, because every brand has a different situation and a different like current situation starting point and a different ending point we want to get to. So make sure you can also test stuff that is templated that all of the brands test, but the real money is when you actually test stuff that is targeted around your brand, and you do that obviously by having the knowledge base we built in step one with all of the research you conducted. So after you have your research, you come up with all of the hypotheses and you prioritize the hypotheses. Now it's time obviously to implement the test. So now you have a prioritized list of hypotheses, and you start from the highest priority one. You take your highest priority hypothesis, you design it, you implement it. What we do for our clients is we take care of both the design and the implementation, and we do it with code and native integration inside their stores. We don't use any Shopify apps, we don't use any external apps that charges you more money and slows down your store, but we do it natively inside your store. And then once you've implemented it with whatever way you prefer, you use intelligence.io or convert.com to actually set up and run the test. These are very straightforward platforms. Intelligence is a Shopify app you can install and start running tests with today. Very straightforward, very simple to use. And once you implement and set up the test, you can actually start the test. But after starting the test is where the most tricky part of split testing comes around, and there's a lot of brands that actually mess up this step here. So step 5 is data gathering and analysis. Stopping tests early is worse than not running them at all. What happens with a lot of brands and a lot of brands owners is that when they see a test losing them money, they stop it right away, because they think they're going to lose money on it long term. Even if a test is winning initially, you can only see the real results after a relevant sample of visitors has gone through a variation. This obviously changes for changes with the scale of your brand. So if you're getting 100,000 visitors per month or 10 million visitors per month, this number will be different based on the scale of your brand. But you don't want to stop tests early, even if they're losing or winning, because it is worse than not running them at all, because then you're making decisions and you're making changes based on flawed assumptions. You cannot decide if a test is winning or losing just by testing it for 1 or 2 days. It's too small of a time frame, and you won't have enough data and enough people that actually went through the variations to actually give you accurate results. So you have to use this phase to keep spinning up tests while you're waiting for data, and you can continue coming up with hypotheses, prioritizing them, designing and implementing them, while your current tests are actually waiting for data to gather and for enough people to go through the variations. Step 6 is pivot, the final step of the process. This is also very important. When you reach that relevant sample of visitors and you have gathered enough information, you can stop the test. And there are 3 scenarios in this case. If the test won, you pivot to the new variation. This is very, very straightforward. If the test lost, discard and keep the original variation. Very straightforward again here. If the results are inconclusive, this is more of a tricky step. You can pivot or discard anyway, depending on if the change is a net positive or net negative. This is very, very personal and very brand dependent. So you have to decide that in your context. But The option I prefer is rebuilding the hypothesis and testing it again. A failing test does not mean that the change you made will fail in every situation. By rebuilding the hypothesis and making it different, you can actually get better results by testing the same things, just changing the context around it and how you implemented it in your store. And it doesn't end here also. You can also, on every test, ask yourself, why did the test win or lose, and what could have been done better to make the test winning, if in the case it lost the first time. So you take all of this information, all of these questions, and you feed this information to your research bank, and you restart from step one with the knowledge at your disposal. The beauty of CRO is that it has a compounding improvement graph. So this cycle is it never stops, it never ends. You always feed information back to your research base, and based on that new information, you keep building up hypotheses and you keep split testing your store to take it to 7, 8, 9 figure in revenue. That's what every major brand on the planet right now is doing. It's very, very important because it gives you a clear compounding growth plan to be able to actually scale your brand to those numbers. So you feed this information, you go back to step one, you go back to the drawing board, and you keep testing month after month, test after test, to get your brand to these levels you want. And these are common misconceptions here that a lot of brands have around CRO. Split testing is all about optimizing conversion rate. This is false, because would you accept a lower conversion rate but higher overall revenue and profit margins? Ask that question and answer this question and see if it's actually true or not for you in this case. Split testing is useful only for massive 8-9 figure brands. This is also false. Any brand over 100,000 in monthly revenue can and should test. My brand is particular. Split testing can't help me. This is also false. Any brand will benefit massively from seeing what their customer resonate with the most and rake in more revenue than ever before in the process. That's exactly how we made these brands hundreds of thousands of dollars in just 30 days of working with them. You can absolutely take everything I said in this video and do your own CRO on your store, but chances are that you run into a ton of roadblocks doing so. As you just saw, there are a lot that goes into it, from the research to the coming up with the hypothesis to actually designing those hypotheses, prioritizing them, implementing them, running the test, gathering the data, analyzing the information, feeding that information back to step one, and coming up with continuous hypotheses and keep up designing and developing them. There's a lot that goes into this, and it would be a lot to try and do on your own. So if you don't want to hit those bottlenecks by doing all of that yourself, then visit CROEvolution.com, the first link in the description, where we'll increase your conversion rate, revenue per session, and profitability, allowing you to scale ad spend profitably, because that's where most of the brands fail. They start scaling ad spend, but they don't see the revenue and the results they want by scaling them, and their profitability start to go down, and they can't invest more money in traffic to grow the brand. But by doing this, split testing your stall at CROEvolution.com, where we'll increase your conversion rate, revenue per session, and profitability, you will actually be able to scale that ad spend profitably to grow your brands to the next level, to that 7, 8, and 9 figure mark. So go down to CROEvolution.com, book a call with me, and see you soon.